hey, I got this script that I want you to produce. It's about a famous wrestling family called the Von Erichs, and they had a curse.
A curse?
Yeah. Like
wow, that's really
curse.
interesting. What was their curse about? Was it like they didn't win championships or something?
Well, I mean, that was part of it.
Okay. Well, what's I want to know the other parts. Like, is this a tragedy? Is this a comedy? Like,
oh, it's definitely a tragedy. So there was this famous wrestler called Fritz Von Erich.
Okay.
And he had 6 sons.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of sons.
Yeah, but 5 of them died before him.
Whoa. Okay. So one of them is still alive.
One of them is still alive, and he's doing pretty good.
Okay, that's
Been
nice.
married 40 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how did the other guys die?
Well, one of them had a ruptured intestine.
Okay.
2 of them shot themselves.
Oh my God.
One got electrocuted and drowned in a puddle of water.
What?
And he was only 6.
Oh my God.
And then I think there was another suicide in there somewhere.
Okay. How are we going to fit all these deaths in there?
My script is like 3 hours long.
Okay. Yeah, we got to cut that. What can we cut out of this to make this a little bit shorter?
Well, the youngest brother never really wrestled.
Okay. So we can cut that one easy.
You're just going to get rid of one whole son?
No, we'll just say it all happened before.
Okay.
So the movie starts after that first kid's death.
Oh, so the 6-year-old you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
and
there's 2 people that shoot themselves. So let's just pick one of them. Did the other 5 wrestle?
Yeah, well, there was one who didn't wrestle because
Okay.
he was kind of the runt.
Oh, okay. Well, let's definitely cut him out.
Okay.
How did he die?
Shotgun shot to the head.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Easy peasy. Easy cut.
All right. I think we just slayed the cat.
I think we did too.
Slay the cat. Slay the cat. Podcast.
Slay the cat is speaking truth. Slay the cat is proof. Here I stop your favorite film. Slay the cat is juiced. Slay the cat podcast. Slay the cat podcast. Slay the cat podcast. Slay the cat podcast.
What's up to all my overbearing psycho sports dads out there? You are listening to Slay the Cat, a movie podcast. I am your host, Joey.
And I'm his wife, Erin, who's never the favorite in her family.
Oh my God, that whole favorites thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was right at the beginning. I was like, this is, we're really in for a treat with this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, Carrie's my favorite. And then there's Kev. But
he had
the rankings can always change.
He had a rankings for how much he loved his son.
It was
That
insane.
is absolutely
What a
insane.
narcissist.
Yeah. I think he was a little more than a narcissist,
Yeah.
honestly. This guy was fucking crazy.
Well, I think you have to be a wrestler.
Well, I mean, you have to be crazy to be a wrestler for sure. I don't know about having to be a narcissist, but
Did you realize we watched 2 wrestling movies in a row?
what do you mean?
The movie we watched last time,
What was it?
Peanut Butter Falcon.
No, we didn't watch that last time. We watched Slither last time.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think.
Well, there's also wrestling, and I'm just kidding.
Well, you know that I watched.
They're wrestling with their thoughts. I'm just kidding.
Well, when we first got together, I was really into wrestling. You
Yeah, I
that?
remember.
Yeah,
One of the best stories is
God.
one of our first dates. Joey messaged me and was like, "Hey, come over. I got money in the bank." And I thought he was referencing the what is that rapper's name?
I don't know.
What
who
is
you're
that
talking about.
rapper's name? Oh my god.
The one who's always talking about money? That's like so many rappers.
Well,
I don't know.
I can't think of him right now, but he has a song. It's called I Got Money in the Bank. Shawty, what you drink? Got money in the bank. Shawty, what you drink? And I thought that's what he was referencing. And so I was like, oh, okay. It's going to be like a little party at his house or something. I get there and he's like, yeah, I got money in the bank. We have wrestling to watch. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, we could do that. That's fine.
For the uninitiated, Money in the Bank is the name of a WWE pay-per-view.
Yeah. So whenever you said I got money in the bank, I was like, oh, okay. Like he bought alcohol or something for us to hang out. But no, he was referencing the pay-per-view Money in the Bank, which we watched for probably like 3 or 4 years after that. It was like our little annual like Money in the Bank.
Yeah, we like that. And I was super into wrestling at the time, and I had the WWE network, and I would watch all the pay-per-views. But you would watch wrestling with me, just to hang out together. But we liked Money in the Bank and the Royal Rumble.
I loved the Royal Rumble when they were like. My third favorite, I would say, would be like TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs.
Tables, Ladders, and Chairs is a lot of fun.
But yeah, Royal Rumble, when everyone comes in the ring and there's like 80 people in the ring not really, but there's like a bunch of people in the ring at one time.
Yeah.
It's always really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I guess we were watching Peter Butter Falcon, and there were real wrestlers in that, and I think maybe that kind of reignited my love for wrestling, because I haven't watched it in years. And I hate Vince McMahon. He's such a piece of shit. So I haven't watched wrestling in a while. So I was like, oh, that Iron Claw movie that came out last year. Maybe that's what put that in my head. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the Iron Claw in a little bit. But Aaron, I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite movies or plays or television that's based on real stories?
Oh, based on... I thought you were going to say based on wrestling. And I was like, there's not a lot.
There isn't really.
But there's a play called Luchadora, which is about a female wrestler.
Oh, is it about a real wrestler?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I think it's just...
Well, tell us about
it's
the
about
play.
like women's... it's these Hispanic women... I think they're from Mexico, but their father is a, what is it when you go around and do like farm work?
Oh, I don't know.
A migrant worker.
Oh, okay.
So they're a migrant worker, and their grandmother was a luchadora, but like luchadoras were not acceptable in the grandma's time period. So she, it was like a hidden thing. Like she couldn't tell anyone.
Right.
I don't really remember it very much because I didn't go see it. But they did it at my college. But I didn't go and watch it. I should have. I think we were doing something that weekend.
Oh.
So, anyways.
I remember that. I remember the playbill for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a poster or something.
We had to do a study guide over it.
Okay.
And I haven't looked at the script since then, which was like my sophomore year of college. So it's been a while.
Oh, okay.
But my favorite story about real life,
It can be a book. It can be anything.
I don't know.
Well, something that I really like, think about it for a minute. I'm a big fan of Schindler's List. I think that's such an incredible story. Do you know Schindler's List?
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
That's about the Holocaust, right?
Yeah, this German guy who was like a weapons maker. He hired Jewish people to work in his factories.
Yeah.
And, therefore, like keeping them from being killed in the Holocaust. Yeah, it's a really great movie. I love it. And then, of course, I'm a big fan of Goodfellas. We've watched that together.
Is that based off of a real story?
Yeah, the guy Henry Hill, the main character in it, he wrote a book about his involvement in the mob and everything. And then Martin Scorsese read it and he's like, oh, this is great. So turned it into a movie.
Yeah, I can't really... honestly, sometimes whenever later on in life, people are like, oh, yeah, that's based off of something like a real life. I'm like, really? I guess, I don't know. I just don't pay attention to that because there's so many things that are like fiction, and so I guess I
It's
just
all
lump
fiction.
it all together. Well, yeah, also it's mostly fiction anyways, but I like kind of lump it together because like even when watching this, they started mentioning like Ric Flair and some of these other wrestlers, and I was like, I know these wrestlers. Are these guys real?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were real people. So I can't think of like a movie or something that's based off of someone's actual life.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, these movies, I'm not a big fan of the true story movies because they're never accurate. The whole point of these movies isn't really to give you like a historical rundown of something. It's to make you understand what it was like to be that person.
Yeah.
You know, like, so if you go to see Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis, you're not there to be like, oh, what is the history behind him
There's vampires.
killing all those vampires? Yeah, because that's the real true story, is him being a vampire hunter. But it's not about that. It's about like you understanding what it is to walk a mile in Abraham Lincoln's shoes. You know, that's what these movies are supposed to be about. Like, there's one true story movie that I don't like, but I really enjoy the performance, is Ray, where Jamie Foxx played Ray Charles. You know,
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out.
I think also when I see that something is based off of a true people, I usually don't watch them.
Yeah, neither do I.
So I think that's another reason. Like, I'm like, I don't know any. I can't think of any.
Well,
So-
Aaron, we don't need to get caught up on how you haven't seen that many. We're just talking about true
Yeah, I
stories.
know.
But like, I don't like that movie, and I don't like biographical movies really at all.
That's
but
what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really.
I'm not into it. Usually they're bad because they have to cover like, 30, 40 years of somebody's life.
Yeah.
Which is not good for a movie. But like Ray, I thought was really good just for Jamie Foxx's performance, but I didn't care for the movie. You remember that movie we watched about Ted Bundy?
There was a movie
And
about Ted
it
Bundy.
had Zac Efron in it too. He played Ted Bundy. The serial
Oh,
killer.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Well,
Okay.
I like Zac Efron, but I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I guess I'm just not into biographical movies. I like documentaries, but I don't like.
I much prefer a documentary about a person than to watch a movie about a person.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that's why I'm like, I don't have anything that I'm like, oh, I like that one. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, but we can continue talking about wrestling movies.
Yeah.
Remember, what's the name of that movie with Jack Black? Where he's a luchador.
Oh, Luchador.
No, it's not called Luchador.
Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre. I like that movie.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
That is a funny. I love Jack Black.
Yeah.
Honestly, almost anything that he's in, I like. So
Yeah.
So of
Even though
course I'm like-
he plays kind of a racist character, I still like
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then also, I know you haven't seen this movie, but it's another tragic wrestling movie. It's just called The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Okay.
That was a really good movie. We should watch that sometime.
Okay.
Maybe we should do a wrestling month.
Well, I had a question for you.
Okay.
I wanted to know if you were a wrestler, what would be your name and your gimmick?
My name and my gimmick.
Yeah.
Wow. You really put me on the spot with this one. Joey the brutalizing bastard.
You're not a bastard, though.
And my gimmick would be I would come out to the ring to the song Raining Blood.
Okay.
Like that end part where it's like ding, 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 ding. And I would be all bloody.
Okay.
Why, do you have an answer for this?
No. I don't know what I would do. I probably wouldn't use my actual name because Aaron's not very. It's kind of boring.
That's not a very tough name, yeah.
Or I'd be called the girl and I would do like an Irish kind of theme.
You wouldn't do like a thespian thing?
Ooh. I could be the actor.
Aaron, the thespian lamb, and you can have like the happy face and the sad face. Mm-hmm. Or was it a comedy and tragedy?
I would have them on both cheeks. Both nips.
I was just saying, like, before you do your finisher, you could put either mask on, and it'd be like, oh, she's going.
Depending on the mask, it's what move she's gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, she's going for the comedy. And
she's going for the tragedy.
You like pull the other person's pants down or something.
I love that. Oh, that would be it.
Yeah, I should work in WWE creative.
For real.
Yeah.
The thespian.
Okay, so
everyone would think I'm a lesbian, though.
Aaron, the thespian lesbian.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
She's gonna be really pretentious, and you're gonna roll your eyes. All right, so
and then she's gonna roll your thighs. Just kidding.
And then, so.
And
oh
then,
my God.
so.
I totally lost my train of thought there. I brain farted real bad. The Iron Claw. It came out last year.
Oh, we're going into it.
Yeah. And it was directed by Sean Durkin, written by Sean Durkin, starring Zac Efron.
And Sean Durkin. Just kidding.
Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, Maura Turney, Holt McCallany, and Lily James. I don't know how to say that. Looks Irish. But he's the guy from Mindhunter. He's the older FBI agent in Mindhunter.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably
That's where he
recognize.
looked so familiar from.
Yeah.
Because whenever he was on screen, I was like, he looks so familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
Now, you didn't know anything about this movie, did you?
I did not. I've seen wrestling stuff, but I didn't know anything about the Von Erichs or really, I don't know much about wrestling. Most of the time, it was just funny to see people like their silly gimmicks.
Right.
So.
Yeah, this was a very different time in wrestling, the late 70s and the 80s. But this movie came out in December of 2023. Mm-hmm. It was made for only $15 million.
Wow.
And the box office was $45 million.
Okay.
So it made some money, but it was not a hit. It was not a huge hit. I mean, it's an independent film, so what do you really expect? Mm-hmm. And it's about sort of an esoteric family. Like, not a lot of people would know about this.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of wrestling, you would know about this, but I don't think normal people would know who the Von Erichs are.
They're not Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. But anyway, it was very well received. It got a lot of critical praise. It was nominated for a lot of smaller awards, no Academy Awards. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think people really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It was really long.
I wouldn't say really long. A little over 2 hours.
It definitely didn't feel short.
No, it didn't feel short. This was not a cruiser, if you will. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are your initial thoughts on the film?
My first thought is the wigs are terrible.
The wigs?
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't think they're bad wigs. I think
it was just bad hair.
The hair is bad. But also, like, so since we know Zac Efron, and a lot of people are starting to get familiar with, I think his name is Arnold.
No, Matthew something?
Matthew.
The guy from The Bear?
Yeah.
Jeremy Allen White.
Jeremy. I was like, some weird white guy name. Yeah, Jeremy and Zac Efron. Seeing them in those wigs, I couldn't help just being like, what the fuck is wrong with your head? Like the other guy, like the guy that plays David, I didn't think it was as bad as Zac Efron's and Jeremy's wig.
I want to say Jeremy Allen
grew his hair out for that?
Yeah, I don't think that was a wig. I think Zac Efron was wearing a wig.
For sure.
And I don't know about the other guys.
They were butt-ass ugly. But it's so weird to see them because we've seen them without that long hair. And also, like, every time I see Zac Efron in anything, I just think High School Musical. And I can't get that out of my head. There was even one point where he was, like, wearing a robe. And I started singing, get your head in the game from High School Musical.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Gotta get your head in the game. Woo! It was a basketball song.
Great. We're not here to talk about High School Musical.
I know. But yeah, I would say, like, whenever well-known people play other people, I always feel like, ugh, because I can't think of them as that person.
So you're saying, like, once an actor is locked into your head as a certain part, you can't accept them as anything else?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is, if you are going to portray a real person, I don't want it to be someone I've seen in a lot of movies as, like, lead parts. Like,
well, I mean, that's
Zac Efron was a lead. Like the guy that played David, I don't know him, so it was believable for me. But the whole,
yeah, of course.
So, but with Kevin, I just felt like Zac Efron the whole time, and so it was hard to get out of that brain wave.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it is. It is nicer when like some movies where they have unknown actors or newer actors that don't have a big career yet. Because it's easier to, like, get into the character a little bit more.
But also, like, or even if it is a well-known celebrity, if they look a lot like the actual person. So I don't remember his name, but whoever played Freddie Mercury, the makeup and hair and all of that, they did a really great job in making him look very Freddie Mercury-like.
Yeah, they did.
And so I've seen that. I don't know his name, but I've seen that guy play other parts. But whenever...
You didn't even see Bohemian Rhapsody, did you?
No, but I remember looking at pictures of him dressed as him, and I was like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
They did a really great job.
Well, they had
a
huge budget on that movie, and I mean, he had to do a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
To become Freddie Mercury, because Freddie Mercury was such a one-of-a-kind real-life character to begin with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, that's another thing I don't really like about the whole true story thing. It's just, I don't know. Like, they have to get famous actors to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, getting Will Smith to be Muhammad Ali.
Is that something that happened?
Yeah, it was. It's a really old movie, but it's just like, okay, I'm watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air playing, like, the most famous boxer.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but I think they did a pretty good job. Like, I started to believe Zac Efron as this character. Like, halfway through the movie, I'm completely forgetting that it's Zac Efron.
I didn't.
You didn't?
But I think it's because I was in, like, high school during High School Musical, so it was really popular. And so...
But he's so much older now. He looks
he
different.
He's had a lot of plastic surgery.
I swear he's juicing. Like, his head looks all swollen. Like, look, he's really bulky in this movie. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if he was doing cycles for this at all. I think he was when he did that Baywatch movie with The Rock, too.
I didn't see that movie either.
Yeah, I did. It was all right. But anyway.
Also, that was the other thing is their bodies looked, ugh. Okay.
I thought they looked like real I thought they looked like real wrestlers, though.
They did. They definitely did look like real wrestlers. But also, I don't know. They just looked... Okay, especially like Jeremy and him being so buff. I was like, lose some of that muscle mass, dude. It was weird to see him like that.
Well, that's what I think he looked like. Even in The Bear, he was like, remember in The Bear? I don't know
he
if
has muscle. Yeah, he definitely has.
He had some guns in that show.
For sure. But like also whenever he was having his shirt off, he looked very square. Like he couldn't put his arms by his side. I guess trapezoid would be better.
Trapezoid.
But I was like, it's too much. I feel like he was leaner in The Bear.
Maybe.
And I
mean, he was wearing an apron for most of that.
Yeah. But anyways, I felt like he was too jacked. He looked like a wrestler, though. It was very believable for that. But the whole time I was like, You look better without those muscles.
I just think you're not into muscle men.
I'm not. I'm definitely not. Look at my husband. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I'm not. I never have been. Like, I remember like my dad trying to get me into like going to the gym and doing like when I played sports, people like, you got to lift. And I'm like, I don't want to. I have never had any desire to like look like a muscle man.
Yeah.
Or have like a nice physique or whatever. And I think if you're like, oh, I want to get women to notice me, I don't think that's a good way.
Nope, it's not.
I think more men, if you want more men to notice you, then do that.
Yeah. It's definitely a male gaze thing.
Yeah. A male gaze on male gaze type thing. It never interested me. But, if that's what you want to do, if you want to do that for yourself, be my guest. It's healthy.
I guess.
If you're not taking steroids.
Yeah. And one of them like was depicted as taking steroids. So
Yeah. But I mean, that's wrestling.
Yeah.
That's huge in wrestling.
well, it's not anymore. Like, isn't it illegal for people to?
Oh yeah, but they still do it when they're not having to get drug tested. Like WWE drug tester their guys, but like when they're not under contract or when they're hurt, they're out on injury, they're definitely doing it.
Oh.
They have to be. But I mean, it's a huge secret. Nobody wants to admit that they're doing it. Like the whole Neil Armstrong thing.
He was doing steroids, right?
Yeah, the cyclist. Yeah, he was doing steroids, but the big thing that he did was everybody was doing steroids to train and then not doing them during the Tour de France. He was actually taking them during the racing part of it.
Oh my gosh.
That's why he's so disgraced. It's like they found out that he was doing it during the, that's how he was winning all those titles and stuff. So,
wow.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about steroids.
Nope. Well, I mean, they might come up again.
I watched wrestling for a while and I got really into it. I would watch YouTube videos about the history of it. Like I was super into it. I wasn't just watching like the new stuff that was coming on. And something that really struck me about this movie was like, this family feels crazy in the way that wrestlers are crazy.
Yes, it does.
This movie really, really captured this. Like you have to be insane to be a wrestler.
Absolutely.
And not, like you said, narcissistic earlier, not necessarily narcissistic, but you have to be somewhat deluded to think that you're going to be able to make it in this. And also like the destruction that happens to your body and your mind and everything. Like so many wrestlers have died under the age of 30. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would be like, I want to be one of those guys?
I mean, there's tons of people that don't think about that.
Yeah.
And they don't care about that.
Yeah, they don't care about it. So I think that makes you crazy.
Yeah,
and I definitely,
absolutely.
Obviously, the father in this is the worst. Like he is like the.
Well, he also is the one. Like he's what caused a lot of his son's deaths.
Yeah.
Because he pushed them in a way that was not healthy for them.
Yeah, and when they couldn't succeed, they blamed themselves and said, "We're not good enough. It's easier to take my own life than to face my father."
Yeah.
And tell him that I'm a failure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
And so, any other thoughts on the movie, or you just want to get into it?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
If it pops up, because I usually like write notes as we're going, and then when I have things that I would like to talk about, I try to star them, but I didn't star some of them.
All right,
so.
little peek behind the curtain for you guys listening at home.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
I have two pages of notes for this movie, so
cool.
it's also long, so.
Yeah, it was 2 hours and 13 minutes, which is a long movie, but not super long.
Yeah, it's not Endgame.
No. All right. So
how long is that movie? 4 hours?
I don't know. I mean, if you add Endgame and Infinity Wars together, because they're practically one movie, it's like 6 hours.
Gross.
Yeah.
Anyways, So in the beginning of the movie, we see the dad fighting.
Well, yeah, it opens up on an empty ring, and you've got the opening credits and the title, and then there's stomping, right? And then you find out, oh, it's the guy from Mindhunter is wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I just said older guy fighting in black and white.
yeah. And this is like, what, probably like the 60s? And they show him doing the claw move where, you grab somebody's head. I really love claw moves in wrestling because they're so funny.
Yeah, very gimmicky.
Yeah.
Even we watched a video of Kevin, and the announcer, he did the claw thing to Ric Flair, and the announcer was like, "Oh, claw to the midsection." It looked like he was grabbing his dick, but it was like at his stomach.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that doing?
Well,
Unless you're digging your fingernails in them.
Claw moves are funny to me because it's all about selling, right?
Yeah.
So they'll do a claw move where like I'll grab your hand and I'm just squeezing your hand very lightly, but you have to make it seem like I am crushing every bone in your hand
Yeah.
and like drop to a knee and be like, "Oh, my hand."
Yeah. It's very goofy.
Yeah, you don't see it much anymore. It's kind of an old school thing, but I still love it.
But it's like right after, like he said, he like wins this fight or something using the iron claw, and then he goes outside and you see his wife and 2 sons.
Yeah.
And he goes up to this car and he's like, "Oh, like I bought this car." And you can tell immediately that the wife is like, "Why the fuck did you buy this car? We can't afford that."
Yeah, and it's also pulling like a little Windstream trailer, so you get the idea that like these people, they don't have a home at all. They are on the road with their dad going to his wrestling, because back then you used to just travel from different territories to do wrestling. And she's like, "Why did you buy this car? We can barely afford it." And she's like, "I'm not even going to ask how much it cost." And he's like, "The only way to beat the best is to be the best." And he's like doing all this preaching about like,
he's promoting his wife.
he's delivering a promo to his wife.
Yeah.
And he said that he's going to be the NWA heavyweight champion one day.
But he never is.
No, he never becomes the NWA heavyweight champion, which is probably why he pushed his sons to do it. It's like he just wanted them to fulfill his dream.
Yeah, which happens a lot with parents that have crazy dreams and they don't succeed to them, like stage moms.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a thing.
Yeah, so wait, Joliet.
She wants to do it on her own.
Yeah, you just keep telling yourself that.
Okay.
No, you don't push her. I had one of those parents, one of those crazy sports parents, and
Same.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But the dad gives all his philosophy about like you can't rely on anybody. It's the toughest and the strongest who succeed in life, and like men don't cry. And
yes,
things of that nature.
that's a through line that comes back later. But like he is that man's man. I'm trying to teach you how to be a man, which is bullshit. But that's the whole theme of this whole movie is like, you need to be a man and I need to teach you how to be a man.
Yeah. And then the wife does some weird prayer where it's not necessarily praying to God. She's like saying like, I will stay true to you and I will obey you and stuff like that. And it's kind of weird.
So it shows that she's really religious.
Well, not so much religious as that she is completely 100 devoted to her husband. Mm-hmm. Because she's...
I can't remember the prayer.
Okay. But, yeah, well, she is religious too, because she does go to church. But also she completely devoted to her husband, never questions him, never stands up for her sons or anything. No. And then
which is a tragedy on its own.
Yes. That is a problem. I know too many relationships like this, and I don't like it.
Yeah. So I don't really know what happens next.
No, it flash forward to Zac Efron. He's waking up in his bed, and he's like, "Hey, I got to go for a run." And I don't know if it was David or Carrie or whatever, but he's like, "No, I'm not going to go." So it shows that Zac Efron is...
Carrie is not there.
That's right. He's
it would
not
be
even
Mike.
there. Yeah, I guess it would be Mike. But anyway, he's like, I'm going to go for a run. And the other guy's like, I'm going to sleep in. And it shows pictures around their house, like all these different trophies for football and wrestling. And
there's a newspaper on the wall, which is like, Carrie's the number one something another track and field.
Yeah, he had some sort of discus record that was going to take him to the Olympics. So right now he's with the men's track and field Olympic team, driving around, doing whatever he does.
Why didn't he get to the Olympics?
Well, I was going to wait till we got to that because there's a part where they're watching TV and Jimmy Carter is on talking, the president at the time. And that was the year that because of the Cold War in Russia, the United States, were boycotting the Olympics. So nobody got to go.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. So that's why he came home and he said, I'm sorry, things didn't work out. Yeah.
We also see them at the dinner table. Have they gotten to the dinner table yet?
Well, he talks about the family curse. There's like a little voiceover about it.
Oh yeah, Zac Efron. There's more voiceover.
Yeah.
And he talks about the curse.
Yeah.
And which I was like, what? I don't get it. But he also starts wrestling at some point and is not wearing boots.
Yeah, that was part of his gimmick is he wrestled barefoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I always thought everyone wore boots.
No, there have been some people who over the years who don't wear boots, but I mean, you're looking at getting a lot of foot injuries that way.
Yeah.
If you're asking me. But anyway, then a title card comes up and it says it's Dallas, 1979, Dallas, Texas, and it shows them wrestling. I forget if it was a tag team thing or if it was just Zac Efron's character by himself. But anyway, like a guy dressed up in like your classic Arab clothes.
Yeah.
With the weird checkered thing on their head and the band around it.
I think it was just Kevin.
Okay. But he comes in there to like break up the match and stuff. And you're like, oh, yep, this is wrestling. Mm-hmm. And then he wins the belt. And you find out that they have a wrestling promotion, WCCW, World Championship. I don't remember.
I don't know.
But this was a real promotion that was in Dallas at the time. So this is one of the things, like there's a lot of really fun stuff in here. If you know about wrestling, you're like, oh yeah, I know about that. And like, I know about the territories and all that. So this was a lot of fun for me to watch. The first half of the movie is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But the second half is kind of hard to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. But we see them at the dinner table, and this is like one of the best, like not the best, it's like an iconic line that he says, iconic being this just came out. I don't know why I said iconic. Anyways, his dad says, well, first, this person's my favorite, and then there's this. But the rankings can always change. So you can tell immediately that the dad is all about what can you show me that makes you the better son. Yeah. And so it's always putting them up against each other. And so it creates this really competitive brotherhood. When at times like it's like, okay, well, having a little bit of competitiveness is okay, but to be constantly put up against your sibling is very tough. I can relate to that. I was yelled at a lot for not doing it as good as my brother. Yeah. But doing like that's what his dad is doing. He's constantly putting his kids up against each other, and it's to also better themselves, quote unquote.
It also illustrates that he's not really concerned with raising boys who are emotionally stable, who are going to be like good members of society and stuff like that. He's just all about like, who is the one who is getting me the most attention in press and all that? Who's making my wrestling promotion, get the most business, and the most prestige, and of course, all like his big thing is getting a world heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
Right. And in wrestling, it's not even real.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, I mean, the belts are real, and it does mean that you're like a big deal.
But they're fixed.
Yeah. But it's like all this stuff is predetermined. It's not like, winning a gold medal at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
But we have Carrie come home. Like, Carrie's coming home now.
Well, no, not yet.
Oh, not yet?
Right. Well, they're still at breakfast, and then the mom is like, hey, how come you're not wearing pants to David?
Oh.
And he's like, sorry, Mom. And then he tells...
Oh, she says, why don't we try putting pants on tomorrow?
Oh, okay. And then she tells one of the sons, I think it was Mike, like, hey, slow down. You eat like a hungry dog or something like that. And it kind of shows like the mom does, she's a typical mom. She wants to
make them decent boys.
Yeah, she just seems like a typical mom. Like she takes care of them and she makes them breakfast, and she's like, hey, be decent. You can't sit at the breakfast table with no pants on.
Yeah. And then we also like cut to Carrie doing discus or something. This is like kind of, he's wearing like a Houston shirt and it's red. And so that makes me, Joey was like, did he go to UH? Did you find out if he went to UH?
I don't know. I know U of H had a really great track and field team. Like we've had some Olympians, like was it, I want to say Carl Lewis or something like that was from U of H, but I don't know.
There's a lot of famous people from UH.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
So, yeah. He could have gone. I would like to know that.
Yeah, and during this time we meet Mike, who is he's the youngest brother, and he's a little scrawnier than the rest of the guys, and they're like, oh, you need to get in the gym and beef
up. You need to
bulk
up.
But he doesn't seem very responsive, and then they go to church, and it doesn't seem like the dad really likes being at church, but he's there anyway, and then they go. You see a garage band playing. And a truck pulls up, and it's Kevin and David, and they're picking up Mike from his band practice. You remember that part?
No.
What? We just watched this last night.
I know. I don't know. There's key moments that I remember, but I don't remember them picking him up from band practice.
Okay.
I do remember them sneaking out.
Oh, okay.
But that I don't know. Maybe I was taking a note whenever that happened or something.
Yeah, but I mean, these are the parts of the movie that I like, where it's not really like I like how independent films do this, to where it's like they just kind of show these moments to where it's just like, oh, feel these people's lives, and like, oh, they're going to pick up their brother from his garage band practice, and then they're happy to see each other, and the brothers, they get along really well. And he's like, can we go get burgers? And they're like, yeah, let's go get burgers. And then they're just in the truck eating burgers together. And it's just like a sweet moment, of like hanging out with siblings and stuff. I didn't have any brothers, so I don't know what this is like.
Yeah. My oldest brother was too old for me to hang out with him. And then my second older brother hated me.
Well, for you, it would be sisters, and you didn't have any sisters.
I didn't have any sisters. So, yep. That was my life.
Yeah.
I hung out with my friends a lot instead of my siblings. Anyways.
And then it goes to Zac Efron is cutting a promo. For the uninitiated, that's when you stand with a guy holding a microphone and you yell at your opponent.
He's trying to cut a promo.
Yeah, but he's not good at it.
And his brother David's there in the background, and he's trying to kind of coach him through it. And he said, if it's so easy, then you come do it.
And he's like, I can't.
Yeah, because he's not the one that's fighting.
Yeah.
I wonder if David is fighting at this point, or if it's just
Oh,
Kev.
yeah, he is. But he can't quite get it right. And then the cuts to tailgating at the Sportatorium. So there's an arena in Dallas that everybody used to go watch wrestling at. And back then it was a really big deal. So they show all these people hanging out outside the stadium and drinking and all that to illustrate that, like, oh, wrestling is a big deal right now.
Yeah. I will also say, like, the music in this is, there's a lot of times where I was like, oh, like, this is an iconic song of the time, which really puts it in perspective, like what time period it was in. Because at first I was like, when is this happening? But the music kind of helps set that tone of like, oh, this is set in the 70s right now, or if this is in the 80s based off of the music.
Right. Yeah, one thing I love about movies set in like the 70s and 80s is needle drops.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It really puts you in that time period. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then it shows them they're going to do a tag team match, and they're back there working out the spots. And I think one of them was Bruiser Brody. I can't really remember. And then it shows them having the match, and they're doing like.
And this is. I think they said that this was David's debut.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That's why I asked if he'd wrestled before.
Oh,
he probably
really
was
remember.
like learning and like doing small little gigs, but then his official like on screen debut.
Okay.
Maybe.
But anyway, they win their match or something, and then
there's a girl there, and that's where Kev meets his wife, Pam.
Yeah, because they're signing autographs outside the arena. But is it right before that? Is that the part where Kevin was starting to talk on the mic, and then David runs in and grabs the mic from him?
Yeah. Yeah, like they finish their match, and Kev's trying to talk to him.
Yeah. Because there was like a disqualification. There was some sort of like botched ending or something like that.
Yeah, and so Kev runs up and grabs the mic and finishes the promo, or finishes the smack talk.
Yeah.
And Kev's really upset about it.
Yeah. But he's not a strong talker. He's not strong on his mic work. Mm-hmm. But then he goes outside and
Like
he's signing
Brock Lesnar.
autographs. Yeah, Brock Lesnar, who has to have Paul Heyman do his talking for him. Mm-hmm. I wish they still had more managers in wrestling today. I miss the whole manager thing. But anyway, they're outside signing autographs, and a girl walks up to Kevin, and she's like, "Can I get an autograph?" And he doesn't really know what to say, and she's like, "Did your mom ever teach you to ask questions?" Mm-hmm. And then she's like, "Well, why don't you ask me if I can take you to dinner or something like that?"
Yeah.
So he's like, "Can I take you to dinner?"
Yeah. So she's kind of leading this relationship.
Yeah.
Immediately from right out the gate. And then I don't think it cuts to. I think that's the fight happens then. After she talks to him.
What fight?
The fight we just talked about.
Oh.
With the tag team.
Okay. Well, anyway, when I was watching this part, I was like, "Oh my God, this woman is like really upfront," and I was like, "Oh, is she going to be taking advantage of him or something like that?" Because he seems like kind of a nice, laid back guy. But then throughout the movie, she's just like the most supportive wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out like at the end of the movie, you find out they've been married for 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's really how they met.
I would like to know that too.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting parts. I'm like, is this true?
But then we go to the dad is in his office, and somebody comes to talk to him and says like, "Hey, they want to put your promotion on a national slot on ESPN," and he says like, "We need a champion and all that because this is going to be a good move for his promotion, but they want somebody from his family to be the world heavyweight champion."
Yeah. And so they put David up as the person that's going to wrestle. And so his dad breaks the news to both of them after that fight. Like, well, you know what? David's going to be the one to do it. You're going to go to Japan. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And then you're going to go and win the heavyweight championship.
Right.
And I think, is this when Carrie starts wrestling too?
No, that's not for a while. Next, it goes to Kevin and his future wife's
Pam.
date, Pam, and she's asking him questions like, "What do you want out of life?" And he's saying like, "Oh, I just want to spend time with my family. Like, I love my brothers." He doesn't say anything about the championship, does he?
No, I don't think so.
No. And then
You can tell that he's like a really good guy, and he's really just doing this wrestling because his dad wants him to, and he wants to win the acceptance of his dad.
yeah, he never even really said. You never hear him say that he loves wrestling or anything like that.
Yeah.
He really just loves his brothers, and he wants to spend as much time with them as possible. And then he asked her what she wanted out of life, and she's like, "Well, I want to be a veterinarian, and I want some kids, and I want a husband who's going to be okay with that."
Yeah.
And it's really sweet because he's like, "Well, we're going to be like one of those modern day power couples."
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny because like the idea of a power couple now is like common, but back in the late 70s, it's like women are just barely having careers for the first time. So I was like, that's cool. Like this guy's progressive. And she asked him like about wrestling, and he's like, well, there's really nothing fake about what we do. Think about a regular job where you get promoted because you're good at something.
Yeah.
And you keep getting promoted. And in the case of being a wrestler, if enough people like you, you eventually become the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah. Also, like on their date, he starts to get like really upset because I think he's talking about his brothers.
Well, she says you have older brother syndrome.
Oh yeah, and then he talks about his his
Yeah.
older brother who died when he was 6.
Yeah.
So he says I'm the second older brother.
Yeah, and he says he can't even remember his brother because he was so young when he died. And I don't think they said it in the movie, but this is true. I looked it up afterwards because I just had to know. And apparently his brother Jack Jr., because his dad's name isn't really Fritz, it's Jack.
Yeah.
They lived in Niagara Falls, and he stepped on the tongue of a trailer that was, I guess it had electricity running through it, and he didn't know, and it shocked him, and he fell in a puddle and drowned.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Talk about...
And so tragic. They don't
Yeah.
really talk about it in the movie, like how he dies.
No, because it doesn't really have any bearing on anything,
Yeah.
but...
Except the curse.
Yeah, that's the only reason they bring it up, is so that you know that the family's cursed before the movie even starts. But yeah, that's a real, what do you call that? Freak accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then after he tells her like that his brother died, he says he was electrocuted, I think. But that's it.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes over to the like his side of the table and like is trying to comfort him because he's really upset, and like she kisses him, and Juliet was like, first kiss or kissing on the first date. I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Do you kiss on the first date?
Sure.
You haven't had a first date in years.
Yeah. Did we? I don't even remember
We
our
didn't.
first date.
I don't even think we had a first date. We already knew each other. We were hanging out. I would say like maybe 4th of July.
I remember the first time we kissed. It was we were at my apartment and we were watching Bates Motel, and then we stopped watching Bates Motel and we made out on the couch for a little while. And then we're like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
We had a conversation about it after that. Like, are we what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he comes home and his dad is like, "You're going to fight Harley Race." So I don't know if this is the part where they tell
No, I think
David, because he tells Kevin that you're going to fight Harley Race, who is the world heavyweight champion.
and there's 2 people. So this is when the two tag team match happens.
Oh, okay.
With him and David.
Yeah.
And then
he,
after this is when he tells him that David's going to be the one
yeah,
to go.
but he's going to get a match against the world heavyweight champion this was a real wrestler at the time named Harley Race. and he had the belt, and he was coming to town to work at their promotion, and they said they want the belt, but the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, won't let them have it, right? Because it's a small promotion. They don't want to let one of the wrestlers have it. And then on the TV, they show Harley Race cutting a promo, talking about like how it's like a small time promotion, like Backwoods or something like that. And this is the thing that they were going to have on ESPN.
Okay.
So it has the main event on ESPN. And then
I was whenever we were watching the fight, I felt like there weren't many rules. Like, you know, like whenever you think about wrestling right now, like there's so many rules, like you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, I mean, that was very vague. But
all the rules in wrestling are like, but everybody breaks them in the match.
Yeah, but I feel like it's like I don't remember what happens to Kevin, but something happens, and I was like, that seems like it would be like a rule break. But I mean, not to say that people don't break rules during their matches.
Yeah.
And I do feel like previously wrestling wasn't just all make 'em ups. Like I feel like it's more common now, like that it's like maybe it's just more known that it's made up.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But
the business has been completely
But I feel
exposed.
like even like I don't remember who it was, but someone told me that they knew someone that was a wrestler. Oh wait, isn't it your family?
I was shooting something when I was still doing video, and I met a guy who was a wrestler.
Okay.
Yeah, and he wrestled back in the territory days.
Yeah.
So
my question is like, was any of like they have like certain like moves and like they play off of each other, but like I wonder if because like you'd have to like practice that choreography before you do it.
Well, no,
with someone.
Well, they can. These guys get so good at it, they can call it in the ring. Like they talk to each other in their ears, so they'll lock up with each other and then be like, okay, we'll chain wrestle for a while, and then like in the second part of the match, we'll start trading blows, and then do this and what it's like doing improv in a way.
Yeah.
But now I don't think many people call it in the ring. Backstage, they just kind of like do an outline of what they're going to do. But I mean, I've never been in the business. This is what
I didn't
little
think that's what
information I can
locking
tell.
up was for.
Oh,
but that makes sense.
They're always talking to each other. But John Cena was really known for calling his spots out too loud to the point where the camera would pick him up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's videos of him, like you can hear him saying like, okay, we're going to do the 5-knuckle shuffle thing or whatever. He's like, I'm going to throw you into the ropes or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So they're communicating with each other to put on a show. Mm-hmm. And it's always been like that. But yeah, I think calling it in the ring is sort of kind of outdated. And then anyway, we find out that this isn't for the belt. This is a number 1 contender match. So whoever wins this will get a chance at the belt. Mm-hmm. And their match goes outside of the ring, and Harley Race throws him on his back on the concrete.
Oh yeah.
And he's really hurt. And when you're on the outside of the ring, a ref will start at 10 count. And you have to get back in the ring.
Before the 10.
Yeah. And so he's hurt so bad that he has trouble getting back in the ring, but he finally does.
Yeah. And he says to his dad that he was taken off guard. He wasn't expecting to be thrown on a concrete.
Yeah.
And so it just took it out of him.
Yeah. And then I think the ref gets thrown out of the ring by Harley Race. And his brothers jump in to protect him against Harley Race, and so the match is just blown at that point.
Yeah,
there's no winner, and I think that's when he tries to cut a promo on him, but David grabs the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard to get things in the timeline of this movie because there's so many things that happen.
Yeah, there's just scene after scene, and it jumps ahead randomly. Mm-hmm. This movie books, but it's hard to remember.
Yeah. This is when Carrie comes back, right?
Yeah, shortly after this. And
this is like 10 minutes in the movie, it feels like. But there's so many things that have happened already.
Yeah, I want to say it's like that's the end of like the first act.
Yeah.
But then they're in the locker room, and he's explaining like, "Oh, like I'm sorry, it just shook me. I didn't know that it was going to hurt that bad." Mm-hmm. And then he gets mad at David. He's like, "You should have let me talk." Mm-hmm. And then that's when it shows Jeremy Allen throwing the discus.
Yeah.
And hanging out, and then they're at home watching Jimmy Carter talk about Afghanistan. Oh, what happened was the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Mm. And then I think the games were going to happen in the Soviet Union. So the U.S. is like, well, because you invaded Afghanistan, we're not going to do that. Mm. So they boycotted. Sounds like something going on today.
Yeah.
Ukraine?
Yeah.
Maybe? Soviet Union or Russia hasn't changed much.
Nope. This is also whenever I put so many handsome men with shit haircuts.
You were talking about me, right? I'm handsome and I got an ugly haircut?
No, your haircut looks nice.
Oh, okay.
And you're handsome.
My face is okay, but I got a sexy haircut.
No, like this is the moment where I think we saw Carrie, and I was like, really, really. But all the haircuts were terrible.
Yeah.
I think that's part of.
I think
the time,
they were
though.
very of the time, and
yeah, they were, but I don't know. It just ugh.
Yeah.
They did not fit the actors very well.
Yeah. It's like when you see pictures of your aunts and uncles from the 70s or 80s, and you're like, whoa, you had big hair.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like when I look at my family's pictures, like looking at my aunts and uncles, I always liked their hair. Like my grandma, she had she had a picture frame that had all of her 8 kids. My grandma had 8 kids, BT dubs. And all of the kids had their senior photos in the picture frame. And so you saw them like kind of through the decades because my grandma had kids for a long time. She started having kids when I think she was like 19 all the way until she was in her 40s. So there was a lot of time throughout these pictures. So you see pictures of like my first aunt in like the 30, no, not the 30s. She was born in the 40s. So probably
Aunt
like
Carolyn.
Mm-hmm. But she I think she graduated, 1840. So like the end of the 50s. So there's pictures of her and my first uncle. And then we cut to like whenever Beehives, my aunt, there's a picture of one of my aunts with this huge beehive. I loved it. My family on my mom's side is gorgeous.
I stand by beehives.
Oh yeah.
Those are cool ass haircuts.
Mm-hmm. And then like seeing like in the 70s and then, I think my mom graduated at the very end of the 70s, early 80s. And she has like this long black hair. Not black, it's super dark brown. But like super long and straight and flat.
Yeah, that flat 70s hair.
Yeah, it was just so funny to see all of the haircuts and like the hairstyles and like the pictures through the decades. I thought that was I always loved that frame. I want it whenever my mom is ready to give it up. I want it. Because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
All of that to say, the haircuts I hated, but they were pretty true to the times.
Yeah. So Carrie's home and they're having dinner, and Carrie seems like a real nice guy. He's like saying like, "Oh, hey Mike, how's the music coming?" And he says that he likes Kevin's girlfriend and all that. Mm-hmm. And then we find out the dad used to be a musician too. And he's like, yeah, but I gave all that up because it was a waste of time. So it kind of makes you understand, like, oh, Mike feels like the outcast because
he likes music.
Yeah, he likes music and he doesn't want to be wrestling. And his dad is like essentially saying, like, what you're doing is a waste of time. I gave that up.
I feel like they kind of meshed Chris and Mike together.
Kind of, maybe.
Because Mike wrestled.
Yeah, Mike wrestled, but Chris was really young compared to everybody else.
Oh, okay.
And if you're wondering, Chris Von Erich was one of the brothers that wasn't depicted in this movie because he was so much younger than the others, and he was kind of a fragile guy, and he was only 5'5". So he was very short, and he just like, you can't be a wrestler when you're that short.
Yeah.
So his career was very short.
Oh, tell that to, what's his name? The little luchador that would fly around.
Oh, Rey Mysterio?
Yeah. He was short.
I mean, but also he came up in wrestling in a country where people are
all short.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, I'm not saying you can't, because there are short wrestlers out there, but you have to be really spectacular. And usually they're high flyers too. They're top rope kind of guys. But I think he killed himself at 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was really young. But he was completely not in this movie. They decided to take him out.
Well, what I put was nerdy bro interested in singing and playing in a band.
Yeah.
Because he asks his parents if he can go to this, I guess it's a frat party.
Yeah, it looks like a frat party, but he said it's a paid gig.
Yeah.
But his parents won't let him go.
So his brothers are like, well, you know what we'll do? We'll sneak him out. So you see them like climbing through the windows, getting in the truck, and sneaking him to this gig, which it was a really like cute moment to like see them as brothers again.
Yeah. And, just to see like, oh, they take care of each other. And, like his older brothers are like these big wrestlers dudes. So it's like, if somebody tries to mess with their little brother Mike, like, could you even imagine?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But so he plays the gig and they're there partying. And it shows Carrie doing like a keg stand, and we're like getting the idea that like he's kind of an out of control partier. And even Kevin says like, yeah, he can really put back some beers.
Yeah.
And then Kevin and his girlfriend go in the truck.
And they have sex for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's like, you've never done this before? And he's like, no.
Yeah, so were they saying that he was a virgin?
I guess.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if they were saying she was a virgin or he was a virgin.
Oh, him.
Okay. I got up and walked to the kitchen right when that was happening, so.
But after that all happens, then we cut to later on after another match. I think that's when actually the tag team happens.
Yeah, well.
God, putting this in order is hard.
Well, I wrote it all down one by one. So the next scene is the dad is watching the Ric Flair Harley race match on television because the rest of the movie they're trying to get the belt off of Ric Flair, but at the beginning Harley Race has it. So his dad is at home watching real footage of the Flair race match, and then it shows them building a fence, and that's when the dad comes out and he says like, Carrie, like I'm sorry your track and field thing didn't work out, but I think you should join your brothers in the ring. Yeah. Because with you, like, we're stronger and, people can't hurt us or whatever. I swear to God, that, like, hurt us thing, like, that's such, like, an abusive dad thing. Yeah. When they tell you, like, oh, you can't do this because people will try to hurt you. It's like, well, like, I've been out in the real world for 40 years. I'm like, I don't have people constantly trying to hurt me. Yeah. But that's some weird, like, abusive parent shit.
Yeah. And his dad is kissed. His dad is mad and, like, pissed off that Kev won't be able to get the belt. Because he says he's too weak. And so there's, like, this montage of the three of them, like, wrestling.
Yeah, it's a like training montage, and it's set to Tom Sawyer by Rush.
Yeah.
Which I love. I thought that was perfect.
Juliet was singing it while it was playing.
Yeah. And it shows them like doing drugs, fast living, Kevin getting married, them having matches, doing steroids, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's also one moment where the dad is talking to Mike, and his dad says, "Oh, well, you're going to compete for the belt too." Oh, I think it's like after one of the matches with all three of them, and Mike kind of comes in the ring, and his dad is in the ring too, and he's talking. He's like, "First, Carrie's going to have the chance, and then it's going to be Kev's turn, and then it's going to be David's turn, and then Kevin's turn, and then Mike's turn." And Mike's reaction to that being like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah, I remember that.
It was really funny.
Yeah, they just had a tag team match with the Fabulous Freebirds, who were a famous tag team from back in the day.
Yeah, so Carrie, they're all in the locker room, and
they actually won the tag team belts at that. So,
but Carrie is in the room, and his dad is talking to him, or talking to all of them, and just being like, "Hey, Carrie, you're going to be doing this," and even like when they're in the ring and his dad announces it, Carrie's like, "I don't know why he said you, like he said me first."
Yeah,
because he knows like there's like a ranking, like you have to be like the oldest one should be able to do it first. But his dad,
this is when they said David was going to be fighting Flair.
Oh, okay.
And then he says David is going to be the champion, then Carrie.
That's what it was. David,
Kevin.
not Carrie.
Yeah. Because they're in the locker room after this, and they're saying, like, David, you're going to take the belt off of Ric Flair, but you have to wrestle in, like, 20 different territories, and even in Japan before they're going to let you do it. So we're like, okay. And then that's when Kevin gets married. There's a little time jump.
Yeah. It's at Kevin's wedding. Everyone's kind of partying it up. And then Kevin goes to the bathroom.
They're playing that song. Thank God I'm a country boy.
That's later.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they go, Kevin goes in the bathroom and he hears someone throwing up, and he thinks they're just throwing up because they're drunk. And he opens the door and he sees David on the floor because he's been wrestling.
This is in the middle of his like tour of the territories, and he's about to go to Japan.
Yeah, and also David, throughout the montage that happened before this, you see like someone like shoot up steroids. I think it was Carrie. I think you were right. It was Carrie. And then you see David pop pills. And Kev is just kind of being himself. He doesn't do any like risky stuff to himself. So, but you don't really know what's happening. I think also Carrie has been like snorting coke a couple times in the montage.
Well, I think he was crushing up his pain pills.
That's later.
Oh.
But
maybe could have been.
Yeah, there was a point where he was like snorting stuff. I think it was at the party, maybe. But he's throwing up, and you look in the toilet, and it's like full of blood. And so you're like, well, that's not right.
Yeah. And then Kevin is like, hey, like you're pushing yourself too hard. I think you need to slow down and
go to the
easy.
doctor.
Yeah. And he's like, maybe don't go to Japan. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I have to. And then obviously it's because like, his dad will freak out if he doesn't go.
Yeah.
And then he confesses that like, oh, he's envious of the fact that he got the shot to get the belt. But then he says, like, but I really just love being out there with you guys, and I don't like that you're gone.
It's a nice little brother moment, and not Carrie. David stops throwing up, and then they go out and do the line dance to thank God I'm a country
and he
boy.
also says, like, you're going to be an uncle.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was a fun way. Like, this is good writing to reveal that someone's pregnant. Don't just, hey, my wife's pregnant.
Yeah.
Till in a moment like this, be like, you're about to be an uncle. So maybe slow down.
They go and dance, And then the next scene after they do the country boy thing, his dad is sitting at the dining table, and he's you can see that he's somber and you don't know what's going on. And Kevin goes and sits by him, and he says that David died in Japan, and it was from his intestines rupturing, which would have caused the blood in his vomit.
Yeah. And this did happen. Like, he did go to Japan, and he died in Japan, and I think he was 23.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Tragic. And but a lot of people suspect that it was actually an accidental drug overdose because he was on all these pain pills. Because I can't imagine a ruptured intestine is very comfortable.
Yeah.
So he was probably taking too many pain pills. But they say that some wrestler went in there, I think Bruiser Brody, and flushed his drugs down the toilet so no one would find it. And then they just ruled his death as like a ruptured intestine. So it might have been a little mix of both. Who knows?
And I was like, what caused his intestines to rupture? Probably wrestling, being thrown on the ground.
Yeah.
But also David left him a letter at one point. Like you see, I think when he was gone to Japan. Yeah. When he was gone to Japan.
He finds a postcard in the mail.
Yeah. I didn't hear what he said when he was reading it.
Oh, it was just like, I miss you. I miss you wrestling with you. And like, I know it's kind of stupid sending this postcard because I'll be home probably before you get it. But I guess, he just wanted him to know that he's thinking about him out there.
Yeah.
And then his dad goes outside right before the funeral, and he tells all his brothers, like, take off your sunglasses, and I don't want anybody to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to put on this tough man facade.
Which is so crazy to me because, like, I'm watching this movie, and I'm, like, on the verge of tears just watching the movie. It's not even my real brother. So I can't imagine somebody saying that.
Mm-hmm.
God.
So after, also at the funeral, they say, okay, well, since David can't participate in this anymore because he's dead, one of the other boys has to go and like compete. And so they flip a coin.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the only fair way.
And it's Carrie.
Yeah. And Carrie, well, it doesn't say, they don't say like, oh, Carrie, you're going to go. But we
realize it's him because we see him wrestling on the TV.
Well, it's like in the locker room, and it's like behind Carrie, and he it like shows Carrie later on wrestling.
Yeah. And it shows the mom watching at home, and he actually wins. And they probably dropped the belt to him because it makes a good story. It's like, oh, your brother died, and now you get to come and win the belt for him.
Yeah.
So then
that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah. But then he comes home, and Kevin finds him sitting in the kitchen with his belt, and he's like, I'm still like trying to come down from the whole thing because it's such a huge high getting to become the champion on television and all that.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to go out for a ride on my motorcycle.
And Kevin says, be careful.
Yeah.
And then you see Carrie riding his motorcycle, and you see this car coming on. But you don't see anything happen after that. It's just like a car in the future. It's what I was supposed to say. In the distance.
Well, then you see somebody waking up, some muscular man rolling out of his bed.
And you can't tell who it is.
Yeah, but you see like road rash on his back. So you're like, oh shit, did he get in a motorcycle accident? Mm-hmm. And then he's walking on crutches, and he goes into the kitchen.
And then it reveals that his foot is amputated.
Yeah, his foot is just missing.
Which
and you're like, what the fuck?
I looked at IMDb, and it said that Carrie did lose his foot, but it wasn't from the motorcycle crash. after the motorcycle crash, he was still recovering, and it says that his dad forced him to continue to wrestle, and something happened and it caused them to have to amputate his leg.
Yeah, and I don't think he won the championship until it was like, no. He won the championship, and then he didn't lose his leg for like 2 years after that. Something like that. But it makes the movie much more streamlined if you can take out a lot of these like little events and compress it down. Because again, this movie is about the curse on their family, not about the historical accuracy of it all. So it works a lot better this way, in my opinion.
And then as soon as that happens, they say, okay, well, Mike, you got to get in the ring. And so Michael is starting to wrestle. And
he's not well trained yet.
Yeah.
They put him in the ring way too early.
And like Kev is on the sidelines trying to like coach him as he's wrestling. And he does like a drop kick, and he lands on his shoulder wrong and breaks his shoulder.
Yeah, he just starts screaming. And so he goes to the hospital, and they say like the surgery was supposed to be a routine surgery, but he got toxic shock, ran a
107 temperature.
Yeah, which is deadly.
For 2 hours.
Yeah, and he went into a coma.
So I expected him to like just die.
Yeah, but he does come out of the coma, and all this did happen. I don't know if he broke his shoulder in it wasn't like his first match. He was wrestling longer than that. But yeah, he did. He had the surgery. While he was recovering from the surgery, that's when he ran that really high temperature and went into coma. It didn't really just all happen in the hospital at one time, but
yeah,
for the most part, that's pretty accurate. And then Kevin's talking about it. He's like, he should have never been in the ring in the first place. So as this movie progresses, we're just finding out like this dad just does not care about his sons. Like he is just one track mind. He's just basically killing off his sons to try to get a heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
Or retain it, because one of his sons did win one. And then he pulls through the coma.
Yeah, and he makes it out of it, and he seems really out, like brain foggy, and he doesn't seem like himself anymore.
Yeah. He's just not all there. And he at the press conference, Kevin is talking for him, but he says like, I'm going to make a full recovery and I'm going to get back in the ring. But you don't really believe him.
Sorry, our dog is trying to bite my leg.
Yeah, our dog he was taking a nap by us, but now he woke up and he's having puppy time, which means biting our ankles. He just destroyed a house plant right next to us.
I know. Or plant.
No, it's fine. It's just one leaf.
I know, but I'm just... Anyways, so like he made it out, and they're doing this, I guess, press release, and you can tell that he's not all there.
Yeah.
Like, because first of all, being in a coma is you're not gonna come out of it like, oh, I'm ready, I'm refreshed, I'm good.
It's not like the movies like that.
And also, he had a temperature of 104 for 2 hours, like
107.
What did I say? 4?
Yeah.
107 for 2 hours. Like, that is brain damage. So, or is damaging to your brain. So,
yeah,
I think they did a good job of like depicting that he was still able to talk, and he was somewhat there. Like he can remember things, but he's not himself anymore.
Yeah, but he was just fresh out of the coma. And then they show him at the dinner table, and he's doing a little bit better, but still, he looks depressed. He doesn't look happy.
And everyone else it seems like everyone else kind of notices it too.
Yeah, you can tell, like, especially Kevin is feeling it. And it shows a tag match after that.
Well, I think Kevin, like, talks to him, and he, like, or his wife, and he's like, this curse is real. Because I think Kevin has his kid, and they're at the doctor, or not the doctor. They're at the thing to get his birth certificate.
Oh yeah.
And they change his last name from Von Erich to Adkins or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't change it. Their real last name is Atkinson.
Yeah.
And their ring name is Von Erich.
Yeah. Well, that's what like they tell them. Like she goes, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Like I don't know if that's actually what they put their last name as or what.
Oh yeah. I mean, why would you have your son a different last name than you? The Von Erich thing was just a ring name. They didn't actually change their name.
Well, that's what it seemed like they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it did seem kind of like that. And then it shows Carrie trying to put his prosthetic foot on and trying to run. And you can tell he's pushing himself too hard because it's really, really hurting him.
Yeah, you can tell he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah. And then his mom is showing a pic to Mike of something that he painted, something that she painted. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "This is the house I grew up in." And it's like kind of a dilapidated farmhouse or something. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Why didn't you ever tell us?" And she's like, "I don't know." Yeah. And then
there's kind of like little snippets of Mike in this part where he like takes a bunch of pills and you're like, "Oh shit, he's trying to kill himself."
Yeah, they're like cutting tension between this tension, right? But also he says, I think everybody wants me to be David, but I can't replace David. So, and then I think Kevin, the one brother who survived all this, did say that. He's like, I think everybody wanted, I think my dad wanted Mike to just be another David, but he just wasn't that. And it shows him like trying to play his guitar and he can't like play it normally. Mm-hmm. And I think that he just feels like he lost his life because of the coma and everything. So it shows him taking a bunch of pills and then Carrie and Kevin are outside like trying to get Carrie back like in wrestling shape.
Yeah.
They're fighting with each other.
Got his prosthetic and he keeps telling Carrie, "You're not ready yet." And Carrie's like, "I am." And so Kevin like kicks him down and then he tells like, "Carrie, if you're ready, then get up."
Yeah. And it's very sad. Like this movie is getting really hard to watch at this point.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it should be. It's effective. And then like they're cutting between the tension of them in the ring trying to train and Mike is
he writes a letter.
Yeah, he writes a letter and then he walks out into the woods after taking all those pills. And I read that he was missing for like 4 or 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in the movie they show him being found right away, but he was missing for a while. So that must have been a rough 5 days. And then it shows the mom, and she's like...
She has her dress on her bed, and she's like really upset and crying. And Pam tries to come in and says like, "We have to leave. We have to go to the funeral." And then she says like, "I can't wear this again. Everyone will know I wore the same dress." Yeah. She's like, "I need a new dress for the funeral."
And you just get the feeling that she's just trying to avoid her grief. Mm-hmm. Because this is, her second son that's died now?
Yeah.
Or third?
Third,
yeah. So then there's the funeral.
And Kevin is also saying like to his wife, like, we need to make a change. Like we can't keep doing this anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like she's like, "Are you going to come home?" And he's like, "No, I can't." And he's like, "I don't want to give it to you."
Yeah. So you can see that he's really struggling with the curse because he doesn't want his sons to die. And I think she's pregnant in this now.
Yeah, I think
with her second child.
She's having their next child. But then it shows Kevin in the ring and he's hitting the ropes. And he's training and he's doing back bumps. And I think this is kind of symbolic as like his struggle with all the death in his family. And he just needs to go beat it out of himself.
Yeah. And I think this is an opportunity where, because Carrie was supposed to fight Ric Flair. Kerry did fight Ric Flair and get the title.
Yeah.
But then since he got hit in his accident, Kevin had to do it. That's what it seemed like.
Well, I think the belt went back to Ric Flair after the accident.
But so Kevin was like, okay, well, I have to compete with Ric Flair now. And so we see this fight happen, and after he's trained after his brother's death, and
yeah, we see Ric Flair like cutting a promo on TV, and they got an actor to depict Ric Flair.
Terrible actor,
and this guy sucked.
Not a good impression of Ric Flair.
A very bad impression of Ric Flair. I'm sure there's someone who could have done it a lot better. Mm-hmm. Like they could have got an actual professional wrestler to do this. I think it would look, because I know there's professional wrestlers.
They could have like gotten Ric Flair, or like even like a
Ric Flair is way too old.
No, I'm saying like got an actual promotion that he did as Ric Flair.
Yeah, like showed his real promo.
Yeah, because they showed some real shots of fights that actually happened.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that it would be owned by WWE for some reason, and they don't want to let them use it or something. I don't know. But this movie only had a $15 million budget.
Yeah.
But anyway. And then he says something about like a real man never goes down. A real man stays up. And it's a really good promo. It's not delivered well because the actor isn't great.
But then you see the fight and Kevin competes against him and he's disqualified because he is holding on to the side?
He hits the iron claw, and then they ring the bell, and he won't let go. Mm-hmm. So then backstage, he's like, hey, how come you didn't let go? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I just wasn't thinking straight. Mm-hmm. And then funny to me, like, I love the juxtaposition of, like, Ric Flair was like the most famous wrestler in the world at the time. Mm-hmm. And he comes backstage there and he's like, man, you're wild.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's go out and get drunk. And like, because at this time, Ric Flair was just all about like partying.
Oh, was
and
he?
living up. Yeah. Like he was really out of control outside of the ring. And he was just partying and like having sex with random women all the time. So he goes backstage. He's like, who gives a shit about wrestling? Let's go get tore up. And I was like, yep. That sounds like Ric Flair.
I don't know any of that.
Yeah. And then it flashes forward 5 or 6 years. Kevin, he goes home. He goes home to his wife.
Yeah.
And then it flashed forward 5 or 6 years.
And they're living in an apartment.
Yeah.
And it's way too small. And they have 2 boys now.
Yeah. But it looks like a Dallas apartment, too.
Yeah.
It totally looked like one.
Cramped little Dallas apartment.
Yeah. And so you get the feeling that he's been at home for the last 5 or 6 years. He's happy and he's got his boys with them. Mm-hmm. And they're inside talking, him and his wife. And we both looked at each other when she says this line. You remember what it was?
No, I can't remember the line.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Oh, yeah. We need a bigger boat. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, Aaron, like in the movie Jaws, when Sheriff Brody sees the shark for this first time, he goes, you're going to need a bigger boat. Mm-hmm. And like Aaron and I quote that to each other all the time.
Yeah.
Like just about anything. Like, we're going to need a bigger refrigerator.
We're going to need a bigger bowl.
We're going to need a bigger bowl.
We do that one a lot. Like, especially like if I'm cooking something and you're in the living room or the kitchen with me. And like I make something in too small of a bowl and we'll look at each other and be like, we're going to need a bigger bowl. Anyways. And
then now we find out that Kevin has taken over WCCW.
Yeah, his dad has retired that and is now, oh my gosh, this dog, he has got the zoomies.
Yeah, our dog's got the zoomies bad. He's tearing up pea pads behind us and house plants and stuff.
He's crazy right now.
Yeah.
But this is when, like, we also see that the kids go over to their grandpa's house and they are watching WWF.
They're watching SummerSlam.
And Kerry is wrestling again.
Yeah, Kerry is wrestling in SummerSlam, and he did wrestle in the WWE. At the time, it was called the WWF. But he was wrestling with a prosthetic. Like, that actually happened in real life, that he had a prosthetic foot. and still wrestled with it, which is crazy. But he was only in WWF for maybe 2 or 3 months, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And then while they're watching SummerSlam, Kevin tells his dad, like, hey, there's this guy, Jerry Jarrett.
And he wants to buy the company.
Yeah, and Jerry Jarrett was a real guy who was a real wrestling promoter. Mm-hmm. And his son was Jeff Jarrett, I want to say.
I don't know.
He was a famous wrestler. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And his dad is like, if you sell my company, you can't ever walk in the front door of this house again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like Christmas time, and Kerry comes home. He's been wrestling, and his dad seems really proud of him because he's like wrestling on this national.
He's
level.
also he's the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and you know what his ring name was in the WWF?
What was it? What was the name?
The Texas Tornado.
Texas Tornado. Yeah. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. And then he got his dad a gun, like a Smith & Wesson. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, Dad, you got to go shoot this gun. And he's like, no, we're going to eat dinner first. And they kind of get into it. Yeah,
and you can tell like something mentally is going on with Kerry.
Yeah, Kerry, like he's really, really on edge.
Mm-hmm. And he brings this girl with him, I think it's Janet.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or Janelle, whatever.
She doesn't really have anything to do in the movie.
But like he brings this girl, he brings his dad this gun. He's kind of on edge, and he says, "Oh, well, I'm not going to stay for Christmas. I'm going to go to Mexico." And then it seems like it's like that night. I guess after they left, or maybe it's like the next night. And he says, "I have a hotel in Dallas, and I can't do this anymore." So you can tell, like Kevin is like, something's going on with my brother. And he calls his dad and tells him that you need to take care of him. But he keeps attacking.
Yeah, he calls Kerry calls Kevin in the middle of the night from a hotel in Dallas, and he's like, I'm not doing good. I feel bad, like I'm deformed and all this, and like I'm probably going to take my own life. And he's just like, hey, just, tell me where you are and I'll come get you.
Yeah, I'll come get you.
Yeah.
But Kerry doesn't want that. He just wants to end it.
Yeah. And so he hangs up without telling him. And then Kevin calls his dad and is like, hey, Kerry is in really bad shape. And you
need to protect him.
Yeah, you need to protect him. Jesus. This dog. He's biting my feet. Anyway. So he also says that he's going to get kicked out of WWF, that his contract is ending.
Yeah, and they don't want him back.
Yeah.
Probably. He keeps saying it's because I can't perform fully. I'm never going to get a title again.
Right.
But then it cuts to the next day, and Kevin is like drives to his parents' house. He's like, "Oh, well, we can meet at our parents' house." And so he drives over there, and he sees Kerry's car outside. And he sees the front door open. Honestly, whenever I saw that front door open, I was like, did he shoot his fucking mom? Because sometimes people are like dealing with shit. They don't just kill themselves. They kill other people too.
Yeah, murder suicides.
But he looks inside, and then he hears a gunshot. And he runs over to this tree, and that's where Kerry is. Shot himself in the chest.
Yeah, he shot himself in the chest, which he did in real life. Mm-hmm. I heard once, and I don't know if this is true, I can't swear to it, but he said that he had an ego about his looks. Mm-hmm. And he said, like, he told somebody, he's like, I'm going to kill myself someday, and I'm going to shoot myself in the chest because I'm too vain to mess up my face.
Oh.
Or something like that. I was like, wow, man, that's creepy as hell. All right, calm down.
Can you hear him?
You want to say something in the microphone? Okay.
He is crazy right now.
He's wild right now.
He's going to jump out of your arms. I'm nervous about it. Let me grab him something to...
Yeah, go get him a
on.
toy, and I'll talk about wrestling curses or something. Yeah, there's a lot of tragedy in wrestling. I couldn't help but think about the whole Chris Benoit story. If you don't know Chris Benoit, he was a professional wrestler who was a very intense guy, and he would wrestle injured, and he would take chair shots to his head, to the back of his head, and his finishing move was a flying headbutt. But he was starting to lose it, and then one day he killed his wife and his 2 sons, and then took his own life. And it was a huge controversy in the WWE at the time. But
Sorry.
it's a real messed up story. They studied his brain, like his family allowed them to study his brain after that whole tragedy, and then he had like his brain resembled that of like a very advanced Alzheimer's patient. Yeah,
Crazy.
Real tragedy.
Anyways.
But anyway, wrestling's full of that stuff. It's full
So
of
is football
crazos.
too, right? Because
Yeah,
a lot of
football
head
too.
injuries.
Yeah.
So Kerry shoots himself and with the gun that he got his dad. So he
Yeah, and then his dad comes over because he hears the gunshot too, I guess. And then Kevin just attacks him and starts choking
strangling him.
Yeah, and he's like, "This is your fault. You pushed him too hard. You were
I
supposed
told
to
you
protect."
to look after him.
Yeah, I told you to look after him. And then his dad's like, "You were supposed to look after him." So his dad is just this insane narcissist who won't ever take any responsibility for his actions. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So after that, they don't really show his they don't show his funeral,
No.
but you see a letter that he wrote to his family saying, well, that he was struggling and he's going to be with his brothers now.
Yeah. And then it cuts to, you see Carrie and he's just walking by his farmhouse, and suddenly he has his foot back. So you're like, oh, is this the afterlife? Mm-hmm. So he gets in a boat and he's rowing across a pond, and he sees his other brothers on the dock, and he goes up to them and he's like happy to see them. Mm-hmm. And then he gets to meet his 6-year-old brother who died, which was that was so weird.
Interesting.
I was like, oh yeah, you're still 6 years old.
Well,
But-
I mean, yeah, it's like when they died, they were that age.
But anyway, it's a sweet moment, and you're like, well, at least they had this horrible tragedy, but they all get to be together in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And even for a unemotional atheist asshole like me, I still felt like, well, that's really sweet that they get to be together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did it in a cute way, but it was kind of weird. And then you see that Pam is pregnant again, and we're at Kevin's. Kevin has sold the thing after
the wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
He sold it to Jarrett after all. And then Jarrett says, like, your dad tried to intimidate me. He asked me to come to his house and tried to intimidate me into not buying it. And he's like, yep, that sounds like him.
And then as soon as that happens, we see that Kevin is living on this new like ranch, I guess. And
Well, they got a house. Yeah, and I think it is a ranch or a farm or something.
but he's sitting there watching his older 2 boys, because his wife is pregnant again, I think. And he's watching his oldest 2 boys play football, and he starts crying, and his sons like see that, and they go up, sit next to him. This was a really sweet moment. And they're like, "Why are you crying, Dad?" And he's like, "I know I'm not supposed to cry," which shows like that manipulation. His dad.
He says, "I'm sorry for crying in front of you. Like, men aren't supposed to cry." And they're like,
And then the kids are like, "No, it's okay to cry."
"We cry all the time."
And he goes, "Well, I'm just sad because I don't have any brothers anymore." And the boys, they go, well, will it be your brother, Dad? I thought that was so cute.
It was so sweet. And then he's like, okay. And he says thank you, and then he gets up and plays football with them. And then they show some of the title cards after it, like your typical true story movie where it's like him and his wife were married for 40 years. They had 4 children and 13 grandchildren, and they all lived together on a farm. Oh, sorry, buddy. But it's like pretty sweet, and they show a picture of his huge family, and you're like, wow, I'm glad someone survived it. Yeah,
and it was saying that he has 13 grandkids now, and they all live on the farm with him.
Yeah.
So it was a sweet little ending. And that was it.
Yep. All right. So, Aaron, I got to get your rating on a scale of 1 to 9 cat lives. What did you think of The Iron Claw?
So rating it, I would probably say maybe like a 5.5 to 6.
Wow, that's kind of low.
Well, I mean, I thought it was produced pretty well, but I mean, the story was really hard to keep track of everything that was going on. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Like I would have, I feel like they were trying to make it like about Kevin's life, which I appreciate that. Like, but I wish they would have done more things from Kevin's perspective. Or if they were trying to do like overall family, then I don't know. Also, I don't like that they cut out a brother. That's kind of
well, you wouldn't
up.
have known that if I didn't tell you that.
Well, yeah, but if I didn't even know that, like the movie wasn't like something I'm like gonna seek out to watch. Mm-hmm. It was a tragic story. It was tragic, like. It was interesting to know some of those things are real.
Yeah.
But also there was a lot of it that wasn't real. And so it's like, I don't know. I'm just not into like true life movies.
Okay.
All
right.
So, but Joey, what is your rating? I'm wondering how different is your rating?
Well, what's my scale that I'm working with here?
1 to 9 cat lives or 0 to 9 cat lives?
0 to 9 cat lives. Well, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 9 cat lives. I enjoyed it a lot, but just listening to you talk about it right now, I realize, I'm somebody who knows quite a bit about wrestling because I watched it for a while, and I researched, I watched videos on the territory days. Mm-hmm. So maybe I liked it more because I could follow it better than the average person.
Because I don't really know much about wrestling, and so it was harder to understand what was going on.
But I think it was super effective at making you understand what it felt like to be Kevin and be in this shitty family of wrestlers, and like what the tragedy that he dealt with.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm giving it a 7. But then like it loses a couple points because it does bounce around a lot, and it's kind of hard to follow. But I do also think it did a really good job of like condensing the events of the movie so that the story is more streamlined, because that's a really hard thing to do. And cutting out that brother, I think, was a good move, because this movie didn't need any more deaths. But anyway, that is going to be my score.
So our puppy has gone on a rampage. So we're going to cut the game tonight, but hopefully we'll have one for the next show. So please
write us at joeyanderinpod@gmail.com. And that's going to do it for us here. Don't forget to slay and neuter your cats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.